Since the beginning of time, humanity has looked to the natural world to explain the mysteries of existence. The wind, the fire, the waters, and the earth itself. These weren't just resources, they were living forces, guardians, spirits. What if I told you that the story of the elements isn't just history, but a map to your soul, your destiny, and your place in the cosmos? Welcome, curious minds and fearless souls. You stepped into the realm where myth breathes, shadows whisper, and the truth is stranger than fiction. From cults to conspiracies to spirits and the stars, this is Kiara's Spirituality Podcast. So grab your tea, open your mind, and ignite your inner flame. Now let's start with the ancient history of the elements. We have Greek philosophy. The classical four, earth, water, fire, and the wind, were first mapped by Empedocles. If I butcher that, I apologize. 5th century BC, who believed that they were the building blocks of all matter. Then later, Plato and Aristotle expanded these into philosophical systems tied to human temperaments. There's the Chinese 5 elements from the Wu Jing: earth, metal, water, wood, fire. Unlike the Greek model, these weren't just things, but dynamic processes, a cycle of balance and transformation. I wanted a tea break. Vedic and Hindu cosmology. The Pancha Mahabhuta, earth, which is the Prithvi, water, which is Jal or Yal, fire, which is Agni, air, which is Vayu, and ether space, which is the Akasha, were seen as the fabric of reality and the spiritual path toward higher consciousness. Then there are the indigenous beliefs worldwide. Many native traditions honor the 4 directions, each with elemental power, spirit animals, and medicine. These teachings show that the elements aren't just symbols, they are sacred guides. Then there are elementals where the spirits are actually behind the elements. In alchemy and esoteric lore in European mysticism, Paracelsus in the 16th century wrote of elementals, the beings that embody the forces of nature. There is the earth, which is the gnomes, the guardians of mineral and crystals. There's the air, which are the sylphs, spirits of wind and thought. There are fire, the salamanders, the embers of passion and transformation. Water, with the undines, the keepers of flow, feeling, and intuition. These beings were said to be hidden just beyond the veil, helpers, tricksters, and teachers of spiritual wisdom. Spirituality of the elements, where each element is more than just matter, it's a mirror of our spirit bodies. The earth represents stability, grounding, manifestation, the physical vessel. Water embodies emotions, intuition, healing, and adaptability. Fire embodies passion, transformation, creation, and destruction. Air creates thought, intellect, communication, and inspiration. And also, if you consider ether, or it is also known as spirit, the unseen web that binds them all, the soul's eternal spark. Across traditions, the elements are a sacred code, a language of balance between the body, mind, emotion, spirit, and the cosmos. So what about astrology? A lot of people consider astrology and the elements as well. Well, astrology weaves elements into the personality and destiny. Earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, are seen usually as grounded, practical, and builders of reality if they're in the balance. Water signs such as Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces have emotional depth, intuition, and can be seen as empathic dreamers. The fire signs known as Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius can be seen as bold, creative, or driven by passion and vision. And finally, the air signs such as Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are often seen as thinkers, communicators, and visionaries of change. In my research, I've actually explored how these elemental imprints shape not only our chart, your chart, my chart, but also our energy body, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And from the way that you feel emotions to how you manifest your dreams, even to how your intuition awakens as well. This book I'm really excited about because it's been redone. I actually had made the Crystal A-Lab Oracle deck back in 2020, and I had made the deck, I made the card box, I made the second card box, the cards, I did a bunch of samples, and it's pretty cool as far as embodying the astrology, but this past year, I felt like I was supposed to recreate that for you guys for easier access. So now you can actually get the Crystal A-Lab Oracle deck on my Amazon. If you look up the Crystal A-Lab Oracle deck, which you can see in the link below, you can actually check it out. But in my Crystal A-Lab Oracle deck, the elements and crystals and energies and elementals merge because stones, crystals, elementals, the earth, air, all the elements carry the wisdom, but they also vibrate with the other elementals and energies. When you draw a card, you're not just pulling a symbol, you're connecting with the ancient spirits of the elements and the unique vibration that awakens within you. It's almost like when you use tarot, tarot is also seen as a elemental strategy when you use the deck. When you think of the pentacles are associated with earth. When you think of the swords are associated with the air. When you think of wands are associated with fire. And finally, the chalices or the cups, they're represented with water. So there's always been this deep connection with oracle and tarot with the elements, and I wanted to take it a step further. I actually created way more descriptions of the elementals instead of the typical 4 or 5. And I do even include the history of like the Chinese like elementals, where they talk about metal and wood, which are often in their elemental mix replacing wind, which they do not consider an element. And even incorporating the Wiccan practice that includes some of the, even the indigenous or native practice, which is the directions, water, fire, earth, and air, and spirit. And I added them all in here as well as the zodiac, the chakras, the aspects in an astrology chart. I included the spirit bodies, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and ethereal. I even input clairs and how to use decks, and just kind of a gift to teach people a little bit more about astrology and the axes of the opposites of signs. But it was just kind of as a way to help people better understand these key concepts. And you can use it for tarot, especially if you're trying to learn it. It's like a step before tarot, but it's a little bit more complex than an oracle deck. Technically it is an oracle deck, but it's its own system because I create a whole system in here for you guys. Yeah, I've been doing this since 2007, researching all of this and trying to bring it to your guys' hands. And I wanted to talk about the elementals today in this awesome podcast episode as well. So if you want to dive deeper into how the elements shape your destiny, on my podcast and in my oracle teachings, I go further into how our elementals forces and our astrological impacts are connecting us to our spirit body and our purpose. We'll explore how your element type influences relationships, intuition, and even your life mission, which is also known as your Vesta in astrology, or even your midheaven, which is what you enact in this world. as well as your north node, which is your future, and your south node, which is your past. So if this episode sparked your curiosity, I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button or follow along for more. Join me on my podcast, which is the Kiara Spirituality Podcast, where we decode the mysteries of the cosmos, the crystals, and your own inner purpose or flame. And yeah, you've just sipped from the cup of the strange and the supernatural. But remember, what you heard tonight is just the beginning. Until next time, this is Kiara reminding you to keep questioning, keep seeking, and always ignite your inner flame and let those elements guide you home.